What if a famous visionary predicted a disaster that could change the world, and no one believed him? What if the warnings were buried under skepticism and dismissed as mere speculation until it was too late? The ground beneath Mount Etna, Europe's most active volcano, had been restless for weeks. Locals whispered about the rumblings, the strange glow on the mountain's slopes at night, but no one expected the violent fury that would erupt, threatening thousands of lives and shaking the very fabric of society. In the middle of this chaos stood Elena Parker, a dedicated volcanologist caught between the unpredictable power of nature and the fragile human systems that ignored her pleas. But this wasn't just any eruption. What made this event remarkable was a cryptic prediction made months earlier by Elon Musk, the tech visionary known for space exploration and electric cars. He hinted at an impending geological upheaval in a tweet that baffled the scientific community and sparked wild theories online. No one took it seriously until the ground shattered and the skies darkened with ash. As the lava roared down Etna's flanks, people everywhere were forced to reckon with the possibility that Musk's prediction was more than a coincidence. Could it be that a man who dared to dream about colonizing Mars saw something that no one else did? What secrets lay beneath the surface of this colossal eruption, and what did it mean for the future of our planet? Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The answer lies deep in the heart of Sicily, where Elena's journey began long before the eruption. Born in a small town in Oregon, Elena grew up under the shadow of mountains and the distant hum of volcanic activity. Her grandfather, a retired geologist, was the spark who ignited her fascination with the Earth's molten core. He would tell her stories of eruptions past, describing the destructive beauty and the fragile balance between creation and devastation. But Elena's childhood wasn't all wonder and discovery. Her family was fractured. Her father, a strict man burdened by his own failures, struggled to connect with his daughter's passion for science. Her mother, gentle but weary, tried to keep peace between them, but the tension was always there, simmering just beneath the surface. School was both a refuge and a battleground. Elena excelled in her studies but often felt isolated, caught between a world of logic and the messy emotions of family life. Despite the challenges, her resolve never wavered. She earned a scholarship to a prestigious university where she studied geology and volcanology, determined to understand the forces that shaped the planet. Years later, Elena found herself in Sicily, working alongside local scientists and guides to monitor Etna. The landscape was breathtaking, lush vineyards, ancient villages perched on cliffs, and the imposing volcano looming overhead like a sleeping giant. Yet beneath the beauty lay an ever-present threat. Elena's closest companion was Luca, a rugged local guide whose knowledge of the mountain was unmatched. Their friendship was forged on treacherous hikes and long nights spent analyzing data. Luca's grounded optimism balanced Elena's sometimes stubborn intensity. Then there was Marco, a fellow geologist whose skepticism often clashed with Elena's urgency. Their professional rivalry was tinged with unspoken attraction, a complicated dynamic that added tension to every meeting. As Elena studied the seismic data in the weeks leading up to the eruption, something didn't sit right. The patterns she observed were unusual, small tremors growing in frequency and intensity, strange gas emissions, and thermal anomalies that defied explanation. She raised her concerns at a regional conference, warning that Etna was gearing up for a major event. But her voice was drowned out by government officials eager to avoid panic and preserve tourism. Denial and bureaucracy formed an impenetrable wall. Elena's frustration grew as she watched time slip away. Hope came in the form of a surprising ally, Dr. Helen Morales, a respected volcanologist from the U.S. who recognized the signs Elena had discovered. Together, they pushed for increased monitoring and emergency preparedness. However, the pressure took its toll. A trusted member of Elena's team leaked data that cast doubt on their predictions, suggesting their models were flawed. This betrayal shook Elena's confidence and cast suspicion on her motives. When the first violent eruption shattered the silence, Elena and her team raced against time to collect critical information and assist evacuations. The scene was chaotic. Rivers of molten rock carving new paths, ash clouds blotting out the sun, and terrified villagers fleeing their homes. Elena's heart pounded not just from physical exertion but from the weight of responsibility and the ghosts of her past. In the midst of the disaster, Elon Musk's earlier prediction exploded back into the spotlight. Social media exploded with hashtags like #MuskPredictedEtna, fueling debates and conspiracy theories. Some hailed Musk as a prophet, others dismissed him as a showman. But the reality was undeniable. His vague warning had sparked a conversation that no one could ignore. As Elena delved deeper into the crisis, she uncovered evidence that the eruption's impact could reach far beyond Sicily. Satellite data suggested that ash and gases could alter atmospheric conditions, potentially affecting climate patterns and critical technology infrastructure worldwide. The stakes had never been higher. Disaster struck again when a powerful aftershock trapped Elena near the volcano's core. With oxygen running low and the ground trembling beneath her, hope came from the most unlikely sources. Luca and Marco set out on a dangerous rescue mission, putting aside their differences to save her life. After the eruption subsided, Elena found herself reflecting on the whirlwind of events that had brought devastation and revelation. She reached out to her estranged father, seeking forgiveness and understanding, and found in him a source of unexpected strength. The experience reshaped her outlook on science, family, and the interconnectedness of humanity. Life is full of surprises, but it's the connections we forge that lead us through the darkest times. Elena's story is a testament to resilience and the power of hope amid chaos. The eruption of Mount Etna was not just a geological event, it was a moment that united communities, challenged beliefs, and illuminated the fragile balance between human ambition and nature's might. What will the future hold as we face new challenges born from the Earth's depths? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain: those who listen, learn, and act with courage will lead the way. So, what pushes you forward when everything seems uncertain? For Elena, it was the memory of her grandfather's stories, the loyalty of friends like Luca, and a relentless belief that knowledge could save lives. For you, it might be something different, but in every struggle, there is a spark that keeps the fire alive. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to hit subscribe and share where you're watching from. Your story could be the next spark that changes everything. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Elena Parker's story didn't begin with the eruption of Mount Etna. It began long before, in the quiet town of Ashford, Oregon, where the mountains stretched like silent guardians over the forests and rivers below. She was born into a family where science and silence intertwined in complex ways. Her grandfather, Henry Parker, was a grizzled geologist with a passion for volcanoes, and it was from him that Elena inherited her love of the Earth's fiery heart. Henry's stories were legendary in their own right. He spoke of eruptions that reshaped landscapes and lives, of molten rivers that both destroyed and created, of the delicate balance between destruction and renewal. As a child, Elena would sit wide-eyed as he described the churning fury beneath the surface, the way magma pushed and pulled, the signs the earth gave before unleashing its wrath. But Henry was also a man of few words when it came to family. Elena's father, Robert, was a different kind of man, stern, practical, and burdened by disappointments Elena never fully understood. Robert had been a promising engineer once, but after a series of setbacks and a divorce from Elena's mother, Claire, he retreated into himself. His relationship with Elena was strained. He never quite understood her fascination with volcanoes or her restless spirit. The household was a battleground of unspoken emotions. Claire, gentle and worn from years of trying to keep peace, encouraged Elena's studies but often found herself caught between daughter and husband. School offered Elena refuge. She was bright, curious, and driven, often losing herself in books about geology and earth sciences. Her teachers noticed her passion, nurturing it with encouragement and guidance. Still, the emotional distance at home left her feeling isolated. The tension between her and Robert simmered beneath the surface, erupting occasionally in sharp words and cold silences. Elena's adolescence was marked by these struggles, but also by moments of quiet triumph. She earned a scholarship to the University of Washington, where she studied geology with a focus on volcanology. The campus was a world away from Ashford's small-town confines, a place buzzing with ideas, challenges, and diverse perspectives. It was here she met Dr. Helen Morales, a dynamic professor who would later become a crucial mentor and ally. At university, Elena threw herself into her work. Field studies, late-night research, and seminars filled her days and nights. She was driven not just by curiosity but by a deep need to prove herself, not just to her family but to herself. Yet even in this new environment, the ghosts of her past followed her. Memories of her father's disapproval, her mother's quiet worry, and her grandfather's fading health pushed her forward and weighed her down all at once. After graduation, Elena took a position with an international geological survey and soon found herself drawn to Sicily, a land steeped in volcanic history and mystery. Mount Etna, with its long history of eruptions and the lives it shaped, became her new home and obsession. The Sicilian landscape was breathtaking, a tapestry of vineyards, olive groves, and ancient villages clinging to rocky slopes. The mountain loomed large, a constant reminder of nature's unpredictable power. Elena quickly adapted, forging bonds with local scientists and guides. Luca, a rugged Sicilian with an encyclopedic knowledge of the mountain, became her closest friend and partner in research. His easy confidence and deep connection to the land balanced Elena's intensity. Together, they trekked dangerous paths, collecting samples and monitoring Etna's moods. But not all relationships were so harmonious. Marco Russo, a fellow volcanologist from Rome, was both a rival and a reluctant ally. His skepticism about Elena's warnings often sparked heated debates, but beneath the friction lay a complicated respect and unspoken tension. Elena's life in Sicily was a balancing act. She poured herself into her work, driven by the memory of her grandfather and the need to make a difference, but her personal life remained tangled and uncertain. Her relationship with Luca was one of trust and friendship, while her encounters with Marco were marked by conflict and attraction. The seismic activity near Etna began as a subtle murmur, barely noticeable beneath the usual hum of the mountain's restlessness. But Elena's keen eye detected anomalies, patterns that hinted at something more ominous. She spent long hours analyzing tremors, gas emissions, and thermal readings, compiling data that suggested the mountain was awakening in a way that hadn't been seen in decades. At a regional scientific conference, Elena presented her findings, warning that Etna was primed for a major eruption. Her presentation was met with polite nods but little urgency. The local government officials, mindful of the tourism industry and eager to maintain calm, downplayed the risks. Elena's frustration grew as she faced bureaucratic roadblocks and public skepticism. Her warnings were labeled alarmist by some and outright dismissed by others. Yet Elena's determination never wavered. She reached out to Dr. Morales and other experts around the world, seeking support and collaboration. Together, they advocated for increased monitoring and emergency preparedness. The tension in Elena's team also escalated. A young researcher named Paolo, once a staunch supporter, began to question her models, driven by pressure from political forces keen on maintaining a facade of safety. When Paolo leaked manipulated data to the press, casting doubt on Elena's predictions, the betrayal cut deep. Trust fractured, and Elena found herself isolated amid mounting criticism. Despite the setbacks, the signs of impending eruption became undeniable. Small explosions and ash emissions began, foreshadowing the coming storm. Local communities started to prepare, but the response was slow and fragmented. When the eruption finally exploded with terrifying force, Elena and her team scrambled to gather data and coordinate evacuations. The landscape was transformed in hours, villages covered in ash, roads blocked by lava flows, skies dark with smoke. Panic swept through the population, and Elena felt the crushing weight of responsibility. As the eruption dominated headlines, Elon Musk's earlier cryptic prediction re-emerged. His tweet, vague and enigmatic, had seemed like a joke or a marketing ploy at the time, but now it was viewed through a new lens. Social media erupted with debates, conspiracy theories, and calls for accountability. The world was watching Sicily, and Elena became an unexpected spokesperson in the global conversation about disaster preparedness and climate change. But the eruption was only the beginning. Satellite images showed that the ash and gases were spreading into the atmosphere, with potential consequences for weather patterns and technology networks around the globe. Elena's research took on new urgency as she realized the eruption's impact could ripple far beyond the island. In the midst of this crisis, disaster struck again. A powerful aftershock trapped Elena near the volcano's core, cutting off communication and threatening her life. Exhausted and injured, she relied on her training and willpower to survive. Luca and Marco, putting aside their differences, led a daring rescue mission. Their journey was fraught with danger but fueled by loyalty and hope. The rescue bonded the trio in ways that transcended their scientific work. After the eruption and rescue, Elena returned to a changed Sicily and a changed self. She sought out her father, reaching across years of silence to find reconciliation. The experience taught her that strength came not just from knowledge, but from connection, with family, friends, and community. Elena emerged as a voice for science and resilience, determined to use her platform to educate and prepare others for the unpredictable forces of nature. Her story was a testament to the power of perseverance, hope, and the human spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. Life's greatest challenges often come unbidden, but it is how we respond, how we come together, learn, and grow, that defines us. Elena's journey, from a small town in Oregon to the fiery slopes of Mount Etna, reminds us all that even in the darkest moments, there is light to be found. As the ashes settled, new beginnings emerged, not just for Elena, but for the people of Sicily and the world watching her story unfold. What pushed Elena forward was more than science, it was love, loyalty, and a fierce belief that understanding the Earth's secrets could save lives and inspire change. What pushes you forward when everything seems uncertain? Hold on to that spark, because sometimes it is the difference between survival and surrender. Elena's warnings about Mount Etna's increasing restlessness grew louder, but so did the resistance she faced. The tension between science and politics, between reality and denial, became impossible to ignore. When she first arrived in Sicily, she was welcomed by the scientific community with curiosity and cautious optimism. The volcano was a living laboratory, a chance to apply years of study in one of the most active and unpredictable regions on Earth. But as her research revealed troubling signs, escalating tremors, gas emissions spiking beyond historical norms, Elena quickly realized that her voice would not be enough. The local authorities were wary of panic. Tourism was the lifeblood of the region, and the idea of closing resorts or evacuating entire towns was economically and politically explosive. At a government meeting in Catania, Elena faced the stern faces of officials more interested in preserving business as usual than heeding her warnings. "Your data is concerning," the regional minister said, "but we must avoid unnecessary alarm. The mountain has rumbled many times before without disaster." Elena pressed on. "With all due respect, the patterns we're seeing are unlike any before. The risk of a significant eruption is high, and the consequences could be catastrophic. We need to prepare the public, increase monitoring, and have evacuation plans ready." The response was a polite but firm dismissal. Behind closed doors, pressure mounted to tone down the warnings. Media outlets followed suit, broadcasting reassurances that Etna was stable, and tourists continued to flock to the island. Elena felt isolated. Her team was divided, some members fearful of jeopardizing funding or their careers, others quietly supportive. The most painful blow came from Paolo, a young volcanologist she had mentored, who began to echo the official line that the data was inconclusive. When Paolo leaked manipulated reports to the press undermining Elena's credibility, the betrayal shattered trust and made headlines. Social media became a battleground. Supporters praised Elena's courage, skeptics accused her of fearmongering. Among the noise, one unexpected figure emerged, Elon Musk. Months before, Musk had tweeted cryptic warnings about geological shifts and energy release tied to volcanic activity, a message so vague it was mostly ignored. Now, with Etna erupting, his words were dissected and amplified. Conspiracy theories flourished online, blending scientific concerns with wild speculation. Musk predicted the eruption, some declared. He's hiding the truth about Earth changes, others claimed. Elena found herself thrust unwillingly into the spotlight, her scientific findings tangled with social media chaos and misinformation. Yet she remained focused on the facts. As Etna's activity intensified, small explosions shattered the silence, sending plumes of ash into the sky. Villagers along the mountain slopes began preparing for the worst, but confusion and fear mingled with denial. Elena and Luca organized community meetings, explaining the science behind the eruption and urging evacuation plans. Luca's deep roots in the region made him a trusted messenger, his calm presence reassured frightened families. Meanwhile, Elena's relationship with Marco Russo grew more complex. Marco was skeptical of Elena's urgency, arguing that the mountain's history included many false alarms. Their debates were heated and emotional, masking a deeper attraction neither wanted to admit. Marco challenged Elena's assumptions, forcing her to refine her models and think critically. Though often at odds, their partnership became essential as the crisis escalated. As the first major eruption loomed, Elena's team worked around the clock, monitoring seismic activity, gas emissions, and thermal readings. The mountain's fury was both breathtaking and terrifying, rivers of lava carving new paths, ash clouds blotting out the sun, the ground trembling beneath their feet. In one harrowing night, a sudden explosion sent shockwaves through the region. Elena and Luca scrambled to warn local communities and coordinate evacuations. The scene was chaotic, families fleeing homes, roads blocked by debris, emergency responders stretched thin. Elena's heart pounded not just from exertion but from the weight of responsibility and fear for those she cared about. The eruption's impact was immediate and devastating. Crops were buried under ash, homes destroyed, air quality plummeted. The economy suffered as tourists canceled trips and flights were grounded. Yet amid the destruction, acts of kindness and resilience emerged. Volunteers organized shelters, neighbors helped each other, and Elena found strength in the solidarity of the people. The global community watched as news outlets broadcast live images of Etna's fury. Elon Musk's prediction became a headline story, debated by experts and enthusiasts alike. Some praised his foresight, others criticized his vague statements. Regardless, the eruption had sparked a conversation about the limits of science, the role of technology in disaster prediction, and humanity's fragile relationship with nature. Elena's research took on new urgency as satellite data revealed the ash and gases spreading into the atmosphere, threatening to alter weather patterns and disrupt technology infrastructure worldwide. She coordinated with international agencies, contributing to global efforts to track and mitigate the eruption's wider effects. But the crisis was far from over. A powerful aftershock struck unexpectedly, trapping Elena near the volcano's core. Injured and isolated, she fought to survive amid falling debris and toxic fumes. Luca and Marco, putting aside their rivalry, launched a daring rescue mission. Their journey was fraught with danger, but their determination never wavered. The rescue bonded the trio in a profound way, transforming their professional and personal relationships. When Elena was finally brought to safety, the experience left her shaken but resolute. She understood that the eruption was more than a geological event. It was a test of human resilience, collaboration, and hope. In the weeks that followed, Elena reflected on the journey that had brought her here. She reached out to her estranged father, seeking forgiveness and understanding. The conversation was difficult but healing, opening a new chapter in their relationship. Elena embraced her role as a global advocate for science and preparedness, using her platform to educate communities about the importance of listening to nature's warnings and preparing for the unexpected. The eruption of Mount Etna became a symbol of nature's power and humanity's vulnerability. Elena's story was one of courage and perseverance, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, hope and connection can light the way forward. As the ash settled and the mountain quieted, new beginnings took root, not just for Elena and Sicily, but for the world watching. What pushed Elena forward was more than data or predictions. It was the bonds she forged, the lessons learned, and an unshakable belief in the power of knowledge to save lives. What pushes you forward when the ground beneath your feet feels unstable? Hold on to that spark, because it may be the light that guides you through the darkest storms. The morning sun cast a pale glow over the rugged Sicilian landscape as Elena Parker stood at the edge of the observation post, staring at Mount Etna's looming silhouette. The mountain, still smoldering from the recent eruption, seemed both majestic and menacing, its darkened slopes etched with fresh scars of molten lava and ash. The air was thick with the lingering scent of sulfur, a sharp reminder of the Earth's restless power beneath their feet. The eruption had changed everything: Elena's life, the lives of the locals, and the scientific community's understanding of one of the world's most active volcanoes. But it was only the beginning of a journey that would push her limits in ways she had never imagined. Elena's days had become a whirlwind of activity. Scientists, government officials, journalists, and volunteers flooded the area, each grappling with the aftermath in their own way. Amid the chaos, Elena found herself at the center of an international task force dedicated to monitoring Etna's recovery and preventing further disasters. The stakes were high. Satellite data showed that the ash cloud had reached far beyond Sicily, affecting air travel across Europe and disrupting climate patterns. Concerns about long-term environmental and economic impacts fueled urgent discussions among experts and policymakers. Elena's role was critical. She was the bridge between raw scientific data and actionable insights for those on the front lines. Yet, despite the global attention, the heart of the crisis remained local. Villages buried under ash struggled to rebuild, farmers faced ruined crops, families mourned lost homes and livelihoods. Elena spent hours traveling between communities, listening to stories of loss and resilience. One afternoon, she visited a small village near the southern flank of Etna where she met Maria, an elderly woman whose olive groves had been devastated. Maria's hands trembled as she showed Elena the blackened trees, explaining how generations of her family had cultivated the land. "The mountain takes, but it also gives," Maria said softly. "We live with it because we love this place." Those words echoed in Elena's mind as she walked through the village, feeling the weight of history and hope intertwined in the ash-covered earth. Back at the research center, Elena's relationship with Luca deepened. Their shared passion for the mountain and its mysteries forged a bond that transcended professional collaboration. Luca's easy confidence and deep knowledge of the terrain complemented Elena's scientific rigor and determination. Together, they navigated the complexities of volcanic behavior and human impact. But tensions remained, especially with Marco Russo. Marco, whose skepticism had softened but not disappeared, challenged Elena's every conclusion. Their debates, often heated, were a crucible that refined their understanding and pushed the boundaries of their research. In a quiet moment, Elena confided in Luca about her struggles, her fears that despite all their efforts, Etna's fury might return with even greater force. Luca's steady reassurance grounded her. "The mountain is alive, yes," he said, "but so are we. We learn, we adapt, and we survive." The task force's work led to an unexpected discovery. Deep beneath Etna, sensors detected unusual seismic patterns suggesting a complex network of magma chambers interacting in ways never before documented. This revelation challenged existing models and raised urgent questions about future eruption risks. Elena and her colleagues delved into the data, piecing together a picture of Etna as a dynamic, multi-layered system capable of sudden and unpredictable shifts. The scientific breakthrough drew attention from the global research community. Conferences and publications followed, with Elena at the forefront. Yet, the mountain continued to rumble ominously. Small explosions and ash emissions punctuated the months, a reminder that Etna's fury was far from spent. One day, a sudden tremor rattled the region, triggering landslides and forcing emergency evacuations. The crisis tested the task force's preparedness and coordination. Elena worked tirelessly, coordinating with local authorities and international experts to manage the response. The rescue operations, marked by harrowing moments and acts of heroism, deepened Elena's resolve to improve early warning systems and community education. The eruption and its aftermath also illuminated the human stories beneath the headlines. Elena documented the experiences of those affected: children forced to leave their homes, farmers struggling to save what they could, volunteers dedicating themselves to relief efforts. These stories fueled her advocacy for science-informed policy and disaster preparedness. Amid the turmoil, Elena's personal life evolved in unexpected ways. Her relationship with Marco grew more complex, shifting from rivalry to reluctant partnership, then to something more fragile and hopeful. The emotional tension between them mirrored the unpredictable nature of the mountain they studied. One evening, as they analyzed seismic data late into the night, Marco confessed his fears. Not just for the mountain's next eruption but for the toll their work had taken on them both. Elena shared her own vulnerabilities, and in that moment, a fragile trust formed. The experience bonded them, even as the mountain's threat loomed. As the seasons changed, so did the landscape. The ash slowly settled, revealing scars and new formations. Scientists began studying the long-term ecological impacts, noting how life was already returning: resilient grasses pushing through the blackened soil, birds returning to the skies, and communities rebuilding with cautious optimism. Elena saw in this renewal a metaphor for her own journey, through loss, fear, and uncertainty to hope and growth. The eruption had forced her to confront not only the power of nature but the complexities of human emotion, ambition, and connection. One crisp autumn morning, a new tremor sent a ripple of alarm through the region. Elena and her team rushed to interpret the data. This time, the signs pointed to a different kind of eruption, one that could alter the landscape more dramatically than before. The task force mobilized quickly, drawing on lessons learned and hard-won experience. Evacuations were more efficient, communication clearer, and community cooperation stronger. The eruption that followed was fierce but shorter-lived, and the damage less catastrophic. In the aftermath, Elena reflected on the journey from that first warning to this moment of relative calm. She thought of her grandfather Henry, whose stories had sparked her passion, and of the people who had welcomed her to Sicily, trusted her, and fought alongside her. She understood now that her work was not just about predicting eruptions but about building resilience, scientific, social, and personal. Her experiences had transformed her. The young woman from Oregon, burdened by family tensions and self-doubt, had become a leader in a global effort to understand and live with the Earth's fiery heart. As Elena looked out over Etna, smoke rising gently from its summit, she felt a quiet resolve. The mountain would always be unpredictable, a force beyond full human control. But with knowledge, courage, and community, there was hope. And that hope was something worth fighting for. What pushes you forward when everything seems uncertain? For Elena, it was the memory of those she loved, the trust she had built, and the unshakable belief that even in the darkest moments, humanity can find light. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The mountain's story was far from over, and neither was hers. Together, they faced the future. Not with fear, but with determination. The days following the second eruption of Mount Etna were a delicate balance between relief and renewed vigilance. The volcanic activity had subsided, but the mountain's temper was far from pacified. Elena Parker and her team were exhausted but aware that Etna's unpredictability demanded constant attention. The landscape around them was a patchwork of destruction and renewal. Blackened lava fields stretched like scars across the earth, yet pockets of green were already emerging, defying the harshness of the ash and rock. Local communities were slowly beginning the arduous process of rebuilding, their resilience a testament to human spirit in the face of nature's fury. Elena's mind, however, was consumed not by the visible aftermath but by the deeper mysteries beneath the surface. The latest data from deep sensors and satellite imaging hinted at shifts in magma flow that challenged even the most advanced models. The volcano was revealing new secrets, and with each revelation came a heightened sense of urgency. One morning, while reviewing seismic activity logs at the research center in Catania, Elena received an unexpected message. Elon Musk had reached out. The brief communication was cryptic but intriguing. "We need to talk about the implications of Etna's behavior on global tech infrastructure," it read. Elon Musk, known for his ventures in space exploration, electric vehicles, and AI, had previously tweeted vague warnings about geological disruptions. Now, his interest was more direct. Elena was skeptical but curious. She arranged a video conference with Musk's team, which turned out to be an intense exchange of ideas and data. Musk's concerns centered on the volcanic ash and gases affecting satellite operations, communication networks, and even electrical grids in Europe and beyond. The conversation broadened Elena's perspective, connecting local geological events to a global technological web vulnerable to disruption. This partnership opened doors to new funding and resources but also exposed Elena to the complex intersection of science, technology, and geopolitics. Meanwhile, life in Sicily continued to weave its own intricate tapestry of struggle and hope. Elena and Luca often visited villages to assist with rebuilding efforts and to educate residents about volcanic safety. In one such visit, they met Giulia, a young mother whose family home had been severely damaged. Giulia's determination to protect her children and rebuild their lives inspired Elena. "The mountain is part of us," Giulia said, "and though it can take so much, it also teaches us strength." These encounters deepened Elena's commitment beyond science. They grounded her work in the lived experiences of those most affected. Yet the mountain's unrest persisted. A new series of tremors rattled the region, this time accompanied by sulfuric gas clouds drifting toward populated areas. The air quality deteriorated rapidly, triggering health warnings and school closures. Elena coordinated with local health officials to monitor the situation, advocating for resources to support vulnerable populations. The tension between economic concerns and public safety intensified. Some community leaders pushed back against evacuation plans, fearful of the financial toll. Elena found herself navigating not just scientific challenges but also delicate political landscapes. Her partnership with Marco Russo evolved amid this complexity. Marco's skepticism had softened into cautious collaboration, but old wounds and conflicting views lingered. One evening, during a stormy debate about risk assessment, their professional disagreements spilled into a personal confrontation. Emotions ran high as they confronted fears, regrets, and hopes buried beneath their scientific facades. The moment revealed the fragile humanity behind their expert personas, and though unresolved, it deepened their connection. The volcanic activity crescendoed again, this time with a spectacular explosive event that sent ash columns miles into the sky and rivers of lava threatening nearby towns. Elena led emergency response teams in coordinating evacuations, setting up shelters, and disseminating accurate information to combat misinformation spreading on social media. The crisis highlighted the critical importance of trust and communication between scientists, authorities, and the public. Elena's voice became a beacon of clarity amid chaos. As the eruption waned, Elena faced a new challenge: the long-term environmental impact. Soil and water contamination from volcanic deposits threatened agriculture and health. Elena partnered with environmental scientists to assess damage and develop remediation strategies. Their work underscored the interconnectedness of natural disasters and human well-being. In the quiet moments between crises, Elena reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point. Memories of her grandfather Henry's stories about resilience and curiosity mingled with the harsh realities of her current work. She thought about her estranged father and the tentative steps toward reconciliation. She considered the bonds forged with Luca, Marco, and the communities they served. Each challenge had tested her, but also shaped her into a leader grounded in empathy and science. One night, as she watched the glowing embers of Etna's lava flows under a starlit sky, Elena felt a profound sense of connection, to the earth, to those she fought to protect, and to the unknown future. The mountain was a living entity, unpredictable and powerful, yet a source of life and inspiration. Elena understood that her mission was not only to predict eruptions but to help humanity coexist with nature's might. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The question lingered in the air as Elena prepared for whatever Etna would reveal next. The journey was far from over, but with knowledge, courage, and community, there was hope. And hope was the light that guided her through the darkest storms. The weeks after the eruption settled into a fragile calm, but Elena Parker knew better than to trust the surface peace of Mount Etna. The mountain had proven its volatility time and again, and beneath the calm exterior, a restless force simmered. Elena's days were consumed by meticulous analysis of seismic data, gas emissions, and thermal imaging, searching for any hint of renewed activity. Despite the scientific breakthroughs and international collaborations, the looming question remained: was Etna truly dormant, or was it merely gathering strength for another powerful outburst? Elena's partnership with Luca Moreno had deepened into a solid alliance forged through shared hardship and mutual respect. Luca's intimate knowledge of the Sicilian terrain, combined with Elena's scientific expertise, created a dynamic team dedicated not only to understanding the volcano but to protecting the communities living in its shadow. They had become advocates, educators, and first responders rolled into one. One morning, as Elena reviewed the latest satellite imagery in the lab, a sharp alert flashed on her screen: an unusual thermal hotspot had appeared on Etna's southeastern flank. The heat signature was unlike anything recorded in the recent weeks, suggesting a fresh surge of magma moving closer to the surface. Elena's heart raced. She immediately alerted Luca and their task force, convening an emergency meeting. The data implied that the mountain's internal plumbing was shifting, potentially presaging a new eruption that could rival or surpass the recent events. The urgency was palpable. Luca and Elena coordinated with local authorities to increase monitoring and update evacuation protocols. They organized informational sessions with community leaders to prepare residents for possible evacuation. The tension was thick in the air. Memories of the recent destruction were still fresh, and the population's nerves were fraying. In one such meeting, Elena met Antonio, a seasoned farmer whose family had worked the volcanic soil for generations. Antonio's weathered face was etched with concern but also an unyielding resolve. "We respect the mountain," he said, "but it's also our home. We need to live with it, not run from it." His words underscored the delicate balance between caution and continuity, a balance that Elena's team had to respect as they navigated the growing threat. Meanwhile, Elon Musk's involvement deepened. His team had deployed advanced satellites and AI algorithms to analyze Etna's activity, offering unprecedented real-time data integration. Musk's interest was not only scientific but strategic. The impact of volcanic ash and geomagnetic disturbances on satellite communications, GPS systems, and power grids was a growing concern for global infrastructure. Elena found herself working at the intersection of geology and technology, where the ancient forces of the Earth met cutting-edge innovation. One evening, as Elena and Luca sifted through data, a series of powerful tremors shook the region. The mountain rumbled with renewed vigor, spewing ash clouds that darkened the sky and prompted immediate evacuations in vulnerable areas. Elena coordinated with emergency teams, guiding the response with a calm urgency honed through months of crisis management. The eruption that followed was fierce but relatively contained, a stark reminder of Etna's power and unpredictability. In the aftermath, Elena reflected on the human cost of living near an active volcano. Families displaced, livelihoods disrupted, and the emotional toll on communities were profound. Yet, amid the devastation, stories of resilience and solidarity emerged. Volunteers worked tirelessly in shelters, neighbors shared resources, and a renewed sense of community spirit took root. Elena's work had shifted from prediction to healing, from science to empathy. The mountain's unrest also exposed fractures in political and social systems. Disputes over evacuation orders, economic aid, and disaster preparedness highlighted the challenges of balancing safety, livelihoods, and governance. Elena found herself navigating these complexities, advocating for transparent communication and science-based policies. Her voice became crucial in bridging gaps between scientists, officials, and citizens. Through these trials, Elena's personal relationships evolved. The tension with Marco Russo remained, complicated by their shared history and professional rivalry. Yet, they learned to find common ground, their combined expertise strengthening the task force's efforts. Luca's steady support and deepening bond with Elena offered solace amid the chaos. Together, they formed a resilient triad facing the mountain's fury and their own emotional storms. As months passed, Etna's activity fluctuated but showed signs of gradual decline. The landscape bore the scars of recent eruptions, but nature's resilience shone through as vegetation slowly reclaimed the ash-covered slopes. Communities began rebuilding with cautious optimism, informed by new safety measures and early warning systems developed through Elena's leadership. In a symbolic gesture, Elena participated in a ceremony honoring those affected by the eruptions, her words emphasizing hope, learning, and unity. Standing beneath a sky cleared of ash, she addressed the crowd. Mount Etna reminds us that life is fragile, powerful, and ever-changing. Our strength lies in our ability to adapt, to come together, and to face the future with courage. Her message resonated beyond Sicily, inspiring a global audience to reconsider humanity's relationship with nature's unpredictable forces. In quiet moments, Elena often thought of her grandfather Henry and the stories he shared about resilience and curiosity. Those tales had ignited her passion and now guided her through the complexities of volcanic science and human connection. She reached out to her father, mending broken bonds and embracing forgiveness. The journey had transformed her, instilling a deeper understanding of love, sacrifice, and the power of hope. One night, as Elena gazed at the glowing summit of Etna, a sudden flare illuminated the sky, a vivid reminder that the mountain's story was far from over. Yet, in that moment, she felt ready. Ready to face whatever came next, armed with knowledge, compassion, and the unyielding belief that together, humanity and nature could find a way forward. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Elena's journey with Etna was a testament to the enduring spirit of discovery and resilience. And it was a story that, like the mountain itself, continued to evolve, challenge, and inspire. The sun dipped low over the Sicilian horizon, casting long shadows across the blackened lava fields of Mount Etna's recent eruptions. Elena Parker stood quietly on the ridge, the smoky tendrils curling from the crater reminding her that the mountain's heart still burned fiercely beneath the surface. Though weeks had passed since the last eruption, the tension in the air was palpable. Beneath the calm facade, Etna was far from dormant, and Elena's instincts told her that the next chapter of this volcanic saga was about to unfold. Her role as lead volcanologist placed her on the front lines of both science and survival. Every tremor, every shift in gas emissions, every subtle change in the mountain's behavior was a critical clue. Today, her team had detected something unusual, a series of harmonic tremors, steady, rhythmic vibrations deep below the surface, indicating magma movement in a new, unexpected pathway. This wasn't just another eruption waiting to happen, it hinted at the mountain's complex internal plumbing rearranging itself in ways that could alter the course of future activity. Elena gathered her team for a briefing. "This isn't business as usual," she said, her voice steady but charged with urgency. "We're looking at a potential opening of a new vent, possibly closer to inhabited areas. We need to double down on monitoring and coordinate with local authorities for updated emergency plans." The room buzzed with energy and concern. Every member knew the stakes. Out in the field, Luca Moreno prepared for a challenging reconnaissance mission along the southeastern flank. His familiarity with the rugged terrain was unmatched, but the shifting geology meant new hazards at every step. Elena trusted Luca implicitly, his calm confidence under pressure was a vital counterbalance to the scientific uncertainties they faced. Meanwhile, Back at the research center, Elena reviewed the data streaming in from the international network of sensors, satellites, and drones deployed around Etna. The integration of these technologies, enhanced by Elon Musk's AI-driven analysis, provided unprecedented real-time insight into the volcano's dynamics. Musk's team had developed predictive models incorporating vast datasets, seismicity, gas composition, thermal imaging, creating simulations that allowed Elena to anticipate eruption scenarios with increasing accuracy. Yet, despite these advances, nature's unpredictability kept them vigilant. As Elena coordinated with emergency management agencies, she faced not only scientific challenges but also political and social complexities. Community leaders grappled with balancing safety protocols and economic impacts. Farmers worried about losing their land. Families feared displacement. Elena's communication skills became as crucial as her geological expertise as she navigated town hall meetings, media interviews, and informal discussions, always emphasizing transparency and preparedness. One afternoon, while visiting the village of Bronte, Elena encountered Antonio again, the seasoned farmer whose olive groves had endured previous eruptions. Antonio's hands were stained with soil, his face weathered but resolute. "We live with Etna," he said quietly. "She can take much, but she also gives life. We need to respect her and learn to live together." His words resonated deeply with Elena. They reflected the enduring bond between people and place, a bond that science alone could not capture. The coming days proved intense. Luca's reconnaissance revealed new fissures emitting sulfurous gases near populated areas, triggering urgent evacuation alerts. Elena and her team worked around the clock, analyzing data, updating hazard maps, and coordinating logistics. The eruption that followed was both spectacular and devastating. Ash plumes soared miles into the sky, lava flows threatened towns, and ashfall blanketed villages, disrupting daily life and infrastructure. Emergency shelters filled quickly as residents fled to safety. Elena's voice became a steady guide, cutting through panic and misinformation. Her televised updates conveyed not just facts but empathy, earning her the trust of a weary public. In the midst of crisis, Elena's personal relationships provided strength. Luca's steadfast support was a constant amid uncertainty. Marco Russo, once a rival, had become an uneasy but invaluable ally, bringing complementary expertise to the response effort. Their complicated dynamic mirrored the volcanic tension they faced, unpredictable, intense, but ultimately focused on a shared goal. As the eruption subsided, attention turned to recovery. Environmental scientists joined the effort, studying soil contamination, water quality, and ecological impacts. Elena advocated for sustainable rebuilding, emphasizing resilience to future events. She also focused on mental health resources, recognizing the emotional toll on affected communities. Throughout the ordeal, Elena reflected on her own journey. The girl from Oregon, shaped by family struggles and personal loss, had grown into a leader whose work transcended science. Her grandfather Henry's stories of resilience echoed in her mind, reminding her that strength often comes from facing adversity with courage and hope. One evening, as she stood once more overlooking the glowing summit of Etna, Elena felt a profound connection, to the Earth's raw power, to the people she served, and to the future she was helping to shape. The mountain's story was far from over, but so was hers. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Elena's question lingered in the air, an invitation to share in a journey of discovery, resilience, and hope. The mountain roared softly in reply, a reminder that life, like Etna, is a force to be respected, understood, and ultimately embraced. Mount Etna's restless fury had settled once again, yet the lingering tension in the air was undeniable. Elena Parker felt the weight of this uneasy calm as she surveyed the ash-covered landscape, the scars of recent eruptions still fresh and raw beneath the pale Sicilian sun. The mountain was a sleeping giant, its subterranean forces churning beneath a deceptive surface tranquility. Elena's role had evolved beyond that of a scientist. she was now a pillar of strength and guidance for communities living under Etna's ever-watchful shadow. Her team's integration of advanced satellite technology, real-time sensors, and AI analytics, thanks in part to Elon Musk's innovative support, had transformed their monitoring capabilities. However, these tools, while powerful, could only do so much against the unpredictable nature of volcanic activity. A new alert had come in during the early hours. Seismic activity was intensifying beneath the northeastern flank, an area previously considered less active. This anomaly triggered immediate concern. Elena convened an emergency meeting with her multidisciplinary team. This shift could indicate the opening of a previously unknown magma chamber or conduit, she explained. We must prepare for potential explosive activity in areas unaccustomed to it. The implications were vast. Villages that had long felt secure now faced the looming threat of devastation. Evacuation plans needed revision, and communication efforts intensified. Meanwhile, Luca Moreno embarked on a daring field mission to assess the changing terrain firsthand. Navigating treacherous volcanic slopes, he gathered crucial samples and measurements, his expertise invaluable in piecing together the mountain's shifting behavior. Back at the research center, Elena found herself grappling with the political complexities of disaster management. Local officials were hesitant to disrupt daily life with warnings that could spark panic or economic downturns. Farmers and business owners voiced concerns over potential evacuations and the impact on livelihoods. Elena became a mediator, balancing scientific urgency with empathetic understanding of the community's fears and needs. One evening, during a town hall meeting in Nicolosi, Elena listened as residents shared their anxieties and hopes. Antonio, the seasoned farmer, stood again, his voice steady and wise. We live with Etna's moods, but we also live with each other, he said. Our strength is in community. Elena realized that beyond data and predictions, the heart of her mission was to foster resilience, not just physical safety but social solidarity. As the days progressed, Etna's activity escalated into a dramatic eruption that shattered the calm. Ash clouds darkened the sky, lava flows threatened infrastructure, and the air was thick with sulfurous fumes. Elena coordinated with emergency responders, overseeing evacuations and shelter logistics. Her public briefings were a beacon of clarity amid the chaos, blending scientific insight with compassionate reassurance. The eruption's aftermath revealed the profound vulnerability of the region but also its remarkable capacity for recovery. Environmental assessments highlighted soil degradation and water contamination, prompting collaborative efforts for rehabilitation and sustainable agriculture. Psychological support services were established to aid trauma recovery. Elena's leadership extended beyond the scientific realm into the very fabric of community healing. Her personal journey mirrored the mountain's tumultuous path. Reconnecting with her estranged father brought both challenges and unexpected healing, as they confronted shared histories and forged tentative new bonds. Her relationship with Luca deepened, grounded in mutual respect and shared purpose. Meanwhile, her dynamic with Marco Russo evolved from rivalry to collaboration, their combined expertise vital in navigating the complexities of the crisis. In quiet moments, Elena reflected on the wisdom imparted by her grandfather Henry, the resilience born from hardship, the courage to embrace uncertainty, and the power of hope. These lessons had carried her through the darkest days and would continue to guide her. Standing beneath a canopy of stars, with the glowing summit of Etna illuminating the night, Elena felt a profound sense of connection, to the earth, to the people she served, and to the enduring spirit of life itself. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The question was an invitation, a shared acknowledgement that life's challenges, like Etna's eruptions, test us but also reveal our deepest strengths. And as the mountain's rumble faded into the night, Elena knew that both her story and Etna's were far from over, each day bringing new trials, new discoveries, and new hope. The night sky over Mount Etna was pierced by streaks of glowing lava, casting an eerie red light across the darkened Sicilian landscape. Elena Parker stood at the edge of a crater rim, her breath visible in the cold air, heart pounding with a mix of fear and fascination. The mountain's latest eruption had been more violent than anyone anticipated, and its aftermath rippled through every facet of life around the volcano. The seismic activity beneath Etna was shifting unpredictably, and Elena knew this phase of the volcano's unrest might redefine everything she thought she understood. Days before, a new swarm of harmonic tremors had been detected, signaling that magma was moving rapidly beneath the surface. This time, the threat wasn't just local. Elon Musk's team had warned that volcanic ash clouds could interfere with satellites and disrupt global communications. The interconnectedness of technology and nature had never felt more stark or precarious. Elena's phone buzzed continuously with updates from her team, government officials, and news agencies. The pressure was immense. Every decision, every forecast could mean the difference between safety and catastrophe for thousands of people. She coordinated with Luca Moreno, who was on the ground navigating hazardous terrain to collect fresh samples and report on lava flow patterns. Their exchanges were brief but intense, laden with unspoken urgency. Local communities faced displacement once again, and Elena's mind was heavy with the stories she had heard: families uprooted, children scared, farmers losing their livelihoods. She remembered Antonio, the wise farmer whose deep connection to the land and mountain symbolized the resilience and vulnerability of the people she served. At a crisis meeting, Elena advocated for a multi-pronged approach. Immediate evacuations were necessary, combined with long-term strategies for recovery and environmental rehabilitation. She emphasized the need for clear, compassionate communication to build trust and calm fears. But political and economic tensions complicated matters. Some local leaders resisted evacuations, worried about financial losses and the disruption of tourism. Elena found herself not only a scientist but also a mediator, navigating complex social dynamics while upholding the imperative of safety. Meanwhile, Marco Russo's scientific expertise proved invaluable. Though their past rivalry lingered, their collaboration had matured into a partnership driven by shared commitment. Together, they pushed the boundaries of volcanology, integrating traditional methods with advanced AI analysis provided by Musk's satellites. The mountain was revealing its secrets in new ways, and their models began to anticipate eruptive behavior with greater precision, though the element of unpredictability always remained. One evening, after a particularly intense day, Elena reflected on the emotional toll of the crisis. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily, but so did the stories of hope and courage from those living in Etna's shadow. She recalled the words her grandfather Henry had shared: "In the face of fire and ash, we find what truly matters, our strength, our love, our will to endure." These memories fueled her determination. The eruption finally reached a dramatic climax, with molten lava flows advancing perilously close to several towns, forcing rapid evacuations. Ashfall darkened skies for miles, and the atmosphere filled with a sulfurous haze. Emergency services worked tirelessly, and Elena's role expanded beyond science to become a symbol of resilience and calm for a frightened populace. As the eruption waned, the focus shifted to recovery. Environmental scientists joined efforts to assess soil contamination and air quality, initiating remediation projects vital for agriculture and public health. Social workers provided mental health support, addressing trauma and displacement. Elena spearheaded community outreach programs, fostering dialogue and cooperation. Through these challenges, Elena's personal life evolved. Reconciliation with her estranged father brought unexpected healing, allowing her to confront past wounds and embrace a fuller sense of self. Her partnership with Luca deepened, rooted in shared experiences and mutual support. The journey transformed her from a scientist isolated by her work into a leader connected deeply to the people and place she served. One clear night, standing beneath a starlit sky with Etna's glowing summit behind her, Elena felt a profound sense of connection, to the Earth's primal power, to humanity's resilience, and to the unknown future ahead. She knew the mountain's story was far from over, as was hers. The question she posed to her audience echoed in the night: hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough. It was an invitation to share in a journey of discovery, courage, and hope, an acknowledgement that like Etna, life is full of unexpected eruptions, but also renewal. The restless murmur of Mount Etna's rumbling had become a constant soundtrack to Elena Parker's life. The mountain's unpredictable temper had shaken the region again, but this time, something felt different. Data from the latest seismic readings showed an unprecedented pattern. Deep tremors moving in pulses, like the heartbeat of the Earth itself, signaling a shift far below the surface. Elena, now well-versed in the volatile language of volcanoes, knew this could herald a new chapter, one unlike any before. Her laboratory buzzed with activity as her multidisciplinary team worked to interpret the complex data streaming in from satellites, ground sensors, and drones. The AI-enhanced models, courtesy of Elon Musk's cutting-edge technology, processed terabytes of information, revealing magma movements and structural changes within Etna's magma chamber with stunning clarity. Yet the mountain's ancient forces defied easy prediction. On the ground, Luca Moreno prepared for a reconnaissance mission to the mountain's northeast flank, where thermal anomalies had intensified. The terrain was treacherous, fresh lava fields, unstable slopes, and thick ash deposits tested even his seasoned skills. Elena's mind raced as she coordinated with emergency response units and local authorities, balancing the urgency of scientific investigation with the imperative of public safety. The communities around Etna lived in fragile equilibrium, dependent on the fertile volcanic soil but vulnerable to the mountain's fury. Evacuation orders were contentious, with many residents reluctant to leave their homes and livelihoods behind. Elena found herself bridging the gap between scientific warnings and the deep-rooted human connections to the land. One evening, in the small village of Milo, she met Antonio once more. The elderly farmer's hands were worn from years of tending olive groves that thrived in Etna's ashen-rich soil. "This mountain is part of us," he said, his voice heavy with both respect and sorrow. "We've seen it rage before. We know how to survive. But we need to be ready." Elena nodded, recognizing that her mission extended beyond charts and models. It was about people's lives, histories, and hopes. As days passed, Etna's restlessness escalated into a violent eruption. Ash clouds billowed into the sky, lava streams carved new paths down the slopes, and pyroclastic flows threatened nearby villages. Elena's role expanded into crisis leadership. She provided regular briefings that balanced scientific accuracy with compassion, helping to alleviate public fear and misinformation. Collaborating closely with Luca and Marco Russo, the team adapted their strategies in real time, using AI-driven predictions to guide evacuations and emergency responses. The eruption's intensity challenged the limits of technology and human endurance. Communication networks faltered under ash interference, and infrastructure damage complicated relief efforts. Elena's resolve strengthened as she witnessed acts of bravery and solidarity among the affected communities. Volunteers organized aid, neighbors opened their homes, and the spirit of resilience shone brightly amid destruction. In the eruption's wake, the focus shifted to recovery and renewal. Scientists conducted environmental assessments, addressing soil degradation and water contamination critical to agriculture and public health. Psychologists and social workers supported displaced families, addressing trauma and fostering healing. Elena championed initiatives promoting sustainable development, emphasizing the need to build resilience against future volcanic events. Her personal journey paralleled the region's recovery. Reconciliation with her estranged father brought closure and newfound strength. Her partnership with Luca blossomed into a deep bond, forged through shared trials and unwavering support. The evolving relationship with Marco reflected the complexity of human connections, professional respect mingled with unresolved tensions. Standing beneath the glowing summit of Etna one clear night, Elena contemplated the mountain's enduring power and mystery. The volcanic landscape, scarred but alive, symbolized both destruction and creation, an eternal cycle mirrored in human experience. She addressed her audience with heartfelt sincerity. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The question lingered, a call to embrace challenges with courage and hope, just as the people of Etna did each day. Elena's journey was far from over. Like the mountain, she was evolving, stronger, wiser, ready for whatever lay ahead. The air was thick with tension as the sun rose over the smoldering slopes of Mount Etna. Elena Parker stood amid the chaos, her eyes scanning the horizon where plumes of ash still drifted lazily against the morning sky. The recent eruption had subsided, but the mountain's restless spirit was far from tamed. Beneath her feet, the earth continued to whisper warnings, subtle tremors hinting at deeper movements within the volcanic core. Elena's days blurred into nights filled with data, strategy meetings, and fieldwork. The cutting-edge AI models developed with Elon Musk's support gave her unprecedented insight into Etna's behavior, but even the most advanced technology couldn't fully unravel the mountain's mysteries. This eruption had revealed new fissures, unexpected magma pathways, and volatile gas emissions that challenged established theories. On the ground, Luca Moreno prepared for another perilous reconnaissance. His expertise navigating the treacherous lava fields and unstable slopes was invaluable as the team sought to map the evolving landscape and assess risks to nearby villages. Communication with local authorities was crucial. The stakes were higher than ever as populations faced renewed threats. Elena's role transcended science. She became a mediator between hard data and human stories, advocating for communities deeply intertwined with Etna's cycles of destruction and renewal. In town halls and media briefings, she conveyed complex scientific findings with clarity and compassion, fostering trust and resilience. Antonio, the wise farmer whose olive groves had endured countless eruptions, remained a poignant symbol of the people's enduring bond with the land. "This mountain teaches us patience and respect," he reminded Elena during a quiet moment. "We live with its fury, but also with its gifts." As volcanic activity waxed and waned, the team faced an unexpected challenge. A significant increase in gas emissions suggested that toxic concentrations could impact air quality beyond the immediate danger zone. Public health advisories were issued, and protective measures implemented. Elena coordinated with environmental scientists and medical professionals to mitigate risks, emphasizing the importance of interdisciplinary collaboration. Meanwhile, the complex social fabric of Etna's communities revealed its strength and fragility. Evacuation orders tested bonds, as families grappled with displacement and uncertainty. Economic hardships emerged, particularly among farmers and small business owners dependent on the region's fertile soil and tourism. Elena's advocacy extended to securing aid and support for recovery efforts, stressing sustainable development that honored cultural heritage while enhancing safety. Her personal life was equally turbulent yet rewarding. Reconciliation with her father brought moments of vulnerability and healing, enriching her sense of identity. Her growing relationship with Luca provided solace and partnership amid the storm, their shared commitment forging a deep connection. The evolving dynamic with Marco Russo reflected the complexity of human collaboration, professional rivalry tempered by mutual respect and common goals. As the eruption's immediate threats receded, attention turned to the long-term implications. Environmental studies documented changes in soil composition, water quality, and ecosystems, guiding restoration initiatives. Psychological support services addressed trauma and fostered community resilience. Elena championed educational programs to empower residents with knowledge and preparedness strategies, transforming fear into informed action. One clear night, under a canopy of stars with Etna's glowing summit silhouetted against the sky, Elena reflected on the intertwined destinies of the mountain and its people. The landscape, scarred yet vibrant, embodied cycles of destruction and creation mirrored in human experience. Her voice carried a message of hope and endurance. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The question invited shared reflection, a recognition that resilience is both personal and collective, forged in the crucible of adversity. Elena's journey continued, shaped by the mountain's unpredictable rhythms and the enduring spirit of those who called its shadow home. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The sun cast a golden hue over the charred landscape surrounding Mount Etna, its gentle light contrasting sharply with the recent fury of the volcano. Elena Parker stood on the edge of a fragile ridge, feeling the warm Sicilian breeze against her face as she gazed across the vast expanse of blackened earth, scorched olive groves, and ash-covered villages. The eruption had subsided for now, but the mountain's restlessness lingered in the tremors beneath her feet and in the anxious eyes of the communities clinging to its slopes. Over the past weeks, Elena's life had become a whirlwind of science, diplomacy, and compassion. The collaboration with Elon Musk's team had provided her with powerful technological tools, satellites streaming real-time data, AI systems analyzing seismic patterns, and drones scouting inaccessible areas. Yet despite these advancements, Etna's moods remained capricious and unpredictable. Her partnership with Luca Moreno deepened with every expedition across the hazardous terrain. Together, they gathered samples of lava, ash, and gas emissions, trying to decode the volcano's cryptic messages. Luca's steady presence was a balm amid the mounting pressures, his expertise and courage inspiring Elena to push forward. In the nearby towns, the human cost of the eruption became painfully clear. Families displaced from their homes struggled with uncertainty and loss. Farmers mourned the destruction of fertile fields that had sustained generations. The local economy, heavily reliant on tourism and agriculture, teetered on the brink. Elena found herself not only a scientist but an advocate, lobbying for aid, coordinating relief efforts, and fostering dialogue between officials and residents. Antonio, the seasoned farmer whose wisdom had become a cornerstone of the community's resilience, met Elena at a makeshift relief center. "The mountain's anger has touched all of us," he said quietly, "but so has our strength. We will rebuild, like we always do." Elena carried his words with her, a reminder that science and technology must serve the human spirit as much as they decode nature's mysteries. Meanwhile, tensions surfaced among local leaders wary of prolonged evacuations and economic disruptions. Elena navigated these complexities with empathy and resolve, emphasizing transparency and the shared goal of safety. In the lab, Marco Russo's rivalry with Elena softened into a productive collaboration. Their combined insights enriched the understanding of Etna's evolving behavior, fueling advances in predictive modeling. Elon Musk's support remained pivotal, bridging the gap between cutting-edge innovation and field realities. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and Etna's summit glowed softly in the twilight, Elena found a moment of quiet reflection. Memories of her grandfather Henry's teachings surfaced, lessons of endurance, hope, and the profound interconnectedness of all life. She thought of her father, recently reconciled, and the fragile yet growing bonds that anchored her amid uncertainty. Addressing her growing audience, Elena's voice was steady and sincere. It was an invitation to share strength and solidarity, a recognition that resilience is cultivated not alone but together. The path ahead was uncertain, shaped by the unpredictable rhythms of Etna and the steadfast courage of those who lived in its shadow. Elena felt ready to face whatever came next, guided by science, grounded in community, and fueled by hope. The volcanic ash had barely settled when a new tremor rippled through the land surrounding Mount Etna, a reminder that the mountain's wrath was far from spent. Elena Parker stood at the command center, eyes glued to the monitors streaming live data from sensors embedded deep within the volcano's structure. The seismic patterns had shifted once again, displaying irregular pulses that defied the previous models. Elon Musk's AI algorithms, which had initially brought unprecedented precision to their predictions, were now confronting the mountain's stubborn unpredictability. This eruption cycle was unlike any Elena had encountered, and every new piece of information seemed to raise more questions than answers. Meanwhile, Luca Moreno prepared for a daring ascent to one of the newly formed fissures. The terrain had become treacherous, with fresh lava flows carving unpredictable paths down the slopes and ash deposits creating unstable footing. Despite the risks, Luca's boots hit the volcanic rock with practiced assurance, collecting critical samples and relaying observations that were vital for updating their emergency response plans. Elena's role had expanded beyond the scientific. She became the linchpin in a complex web of communication, between her team, local authorities, international experts, and the affected communities. She organized town hall meetings in villages like Zaffarana and Linguaglassa, where residents faced the harsh reality of evacuations and the loss of their ancestral homes. Antonio, the weathered farmer whose deep roots in the land symbolized the resilience of the people, stood beside her during one such meeting. "We've weathered storms before," he told the crowd, "but this mountain tests us in ways we never imagined. Still, we endure." Elena knew that endurance meant more than physical survival, it meant preserving hope, community, and identity amid upheaval. Political tensions simmered beneath the surface. Some local leaders resisted prolonged evacuations, fearing economic collapse and loss of trust. Elena's diplomatic skills were put to the test as she balanced scientific urgency with empathy, striving to foster cooperation and transparency. Back at the lab, collaboration with Marco Russo evolved from rivalry to partnership. Their combined expertise, amplified by Musk's technological support, enabled groundbreaking analyses that pushed the boundaries of volcanology. However, the mountain's raw power reminded them all of nature's supremacy. A sudden explosive event during one night sent shockwaves through the region. Pyroclastic flows surged perilously close to villages, forcing rapid evacuations under chaotic conditions. Elena's crisis leadership was crucial, coordinating emergency services, providing accurate public information, and maintaining calm amid fear. As the eruption's fury gradually subsided, the focus shifted to recovery. Environmental teams assessed the damage, soil contamination, water quality degradation, and ecosystem disruptions, laying the groundwork for rehabilitation. Psychological support programs addressed trauma, emphasizing community resilience and healing. Elena championed educational initiatives aimed at empowering residents with knowledge and preparedness, fostering a culture of informed vigilance. Her personal journey intertwined with the mountain's cycles. Reconciliation with her estranged father brought moments of reflection and renewal, while her relationship with Luca deepened, built on mutual respect and shared hardship. The complex dynamic with Marco Russo mirrored the intricate balance of competition and collaboration that defined their work. One clear night, beneath the constellation-studded sky and the glowing summit of Etna, Elena reflected on the intertwined destinies of Earth and humanity. The landscape, marked by destruction yet vibrant with life, symbolized an eternal dance of creation and resilience. She addressed her audience once more. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? It was a shared invitation, to face adversity with courage, to find strength in community, and to embrace the unpredictable journey ahead. Elena knew the mountain story was far from over, as was hers. Together, they moved forward into the unknown, guided by science, hope, and the enduring spirit of life itself. The morning sun painted the horizon in shades of amber and rose, but the beauty of the new day was tinged with an underlying tension that gripped the communities around Mount Etna. Elena Parker sat in the makeshift operations center, her eyes flicking between the live feed of satellite images and the constantly updating seismic graphs. The volcano had settled into a precarious quiet, yet beneath the surface, molten magma continued to churn and push upward, threatening to unleash another violent eruption at any moment. The recent weeks had tested every ounce of Elena's expertise, resilience, and compassion. Working alongside Elon Musk's advanced AI systems, her team had refined their predictive models, but Etna's nature was far from predictable. The mountain's heartbeat was irregular, a complex rhythm that defied full understanding. Luca Moreno was out in the field again, navigating the volatile lava fields to gather samples and monitor gas emissions. His reports were invaluable, they offered ground truth to the models and helped Elena assess real-time risks to the nearby towns. The tension between urgency and caution weighed heavily on her. Each decision could mean the difference between safety and disaster. The communities around Etna were caught in the crossfire of nature's power and human vulnerability. Families had been uprooted, homes reduced to ash, and livelihoods destroyed. Elena's role transcended science. She became a beacon of hope and a voice for the people. At a community meeting in Randazzo, she listened to voices filled with fear, frustration, and determination. Antonio, the steadfast farmer, stood among them, embodying the spirit of endurance that had carried the people through generations of volcanic upheavals. "We cannot control the mountain," he said, "but we can control how we face it, together." Political and economic pressures complicated evacuation efforts. Some local officials worried about the impact on tourism and agriculture, urging caution in issuing warnings. Elena navigated these challenges with empathy and clarity, advocating for transparent communication and prioritizing human safety above all else. Back at the lab, collaboration with Marco Russo had evolved into a dynamic partnership. Their combined expertise, enhanced by Musk's technological innovations, pushed the boundaries of understanding Etna's behavior. Yet the mountain's raw power reminded them constantly of nature's supremacy. One evening, a sudden surge of seismic activity signaled a new eruptive phase. Ash clouds billowed skyward, and lava flows carved fresh paths down the slopes, threatening villages once more. Emergency protocols sprang into action, with Elena coordinating closely with response teams and authorities. The evacuation orders were swift and decisive, guided by real-time data and predictive models. The human cost was palpable. Families hurriedly packed belongings, children clung to parents, and the air was thick with smoke and uncertainty. In the days that followed, relief efforts mobilized. Scientists assessed environmental damage, including soil and water contamination, vital for restoring agriculture and health. Psychologists and social workers provided critical support for trauma and displacement. Elena spearheaded initiatives to rebuild not just infrastructure, but the community's spirit and resilience. Her personal journey paralleled the region's recovery. Reconnecting with her estranged father brought healing and renewed strength. Her relationship with Luca deepened, their shared experiences forging a bond of trust and hope. The evolving dynamic with Marco Russo reflected the complexities of human collaboration, competition tempered by mutual respect and a shared mission. One clear night, beneath a sky littered with stars and Etna's glowing summit silhouetted against the darkness, Elena stood quietly, reflecting on the mountain's power and mystery. The landscape bore the scars of destruction yet pulsed with life and renewal. A testament to the cycles of nature and human resilience. Addressing her audience once again, her voice was steady and filled with warmth. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? It was an invitation to share in a journey of courage and hope, to recognize that even amid uncertainty and upheaval, life's indomitable spirit shines through. Elena knew the path ahead would be challenging, but she was ready, armed with science, grounded in community, and inspired by the enduring strength of those who live in Etna's shadow. Mount Etna's shadow stretched long over the sun-dappled fields, the once raging inferno now simmering into a quiet menace. Elena Parker stood atop a ridge, wind tugging at her jacket, her gaze fixed on the vast volcanic landscape. The eruption had transformed the region's face. Blackened lava flows carved new valleys, ash blanketed the earth, and yet, amid the destruction, signs of rebirth emerged. The fertile soil beneath the ash promised a future harvest, a reminder of nature's relentless cycle of destruction and renewal. In the weeks following the eruption, Elena's work shifted toward recovery and preparation. Collaborating with Elon Musk's AI teams, she developed enhanced monitoring systems designed to predict Etna's next moves with greater accuracy. These systems integrated satellite imagery, ground sensors, and machine learning algorithms, creating a virtual pulse of the mountain's activity. But even with these tools, uncertainty lingered. Etna's temper was as inscrutable as ever. Luca Moreno joined her in the field, their partnership a blend of scientific rigor and practical experience. Together, They mapped new lava tubes, measured gas emissions, and monitored the stability of newly formed landforms. The terrain was unforgiving, but their resolve was unwavering. Meanwhile, the human element of the crisis unfolded in parallel. Displaced families faced the daunting task of rebuilding lives amid lingering fear. Economic pressures weighed heavily, farms lay buried under volcanic debris, businesses shuttered, and tourism slowed. Elena worked closely with local leaders, NGOs, and international agencies to coordinate aid, emphasizing sustainable rebuilding that respected the region's heritage while enhancing resilience. Antonio, the elder farmer who had become a symbol of perseverance, shared stories of past eruptions and survival. His wisdom grounded Elena, reminding her that science must serve not only understanding but also the people whose lives it touched. Political debates intensified as pressure mounted to reopen evacuated areas. Elena advocated for cautious, data-driven decisions, balancing economic recovery with safety. She emphasized transparent communication and community involvement, knowing that trust was crucial in navigating the path forward. At the research center, collaboration flourished. Marco Russo and Elena combined their expertise, challenging each other and pushing the boundaries of volcanic science. Musk's technological innovations provided unprecedented analytical power, yet the mountain's raw unpredictability humbled them all. One night, as stars glittered above Etna's glowing crater, a sudden seismic spike jolted the team. A new fissure was opening, threatening another eruption. Rapid response protocols activated, evacuation orders issued, and emergency shelters readied. The community braced once more for nature's fury. Through the chaos, Elena's leadership shone, calm, decisive, and compassionate. She coordinated efforts to protect lives and minimize damage, drawing on hard-won experience and cutting-edge technology. As the eruption unfolded, Elena witnessed both destruction and humanity's resilience. Volunteers rallied, neighbors supported each other, and hope endured amid ash and fire. The mountain cycles mirrored her own journey, challenges met with courage, setbacks balanced by growth. Her relationship with Luca deepened, rooted in shared trials and unwavering support. Reconciliation with her father continued, healing old wounds and strengthening her foundation. The evolving dynamic with Marco reflected the complex dance of competition and collaboration that propelled their work. Standing beneath the fiery glow of Etna's summit, Elena addressed her audience with renewed determination. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? It was a call to embrace resilience, community, and hope in the face of uncertainty. The mountain's story was far from over, as was hers. Together, they faced the unknown, guided by science, strengthened by connection, and inspired by the enduring spirit of life. The morning after the latest eruption, the air hung heavy with ash and uncertainty as the communities around Mount Etna grappled with the aftermath. Elena Parker awoke before dawn, her mind already racing through the day's agenda. The eruption had been intense but mercifully brief, sparing some of the towns that had faced devastation just weeks prior. Yet the mountain's temper was volatile, and the data streaming into the command center suggested no permanent calm. Satellite imagery revealed fresh lava flows carving new paths down the rugged slopes, while gas sensors detected rising concentrations of sulfur dioxide, a toxic warning sign that demanded immediate action. Elena's role had expanded beyond the laboratory and fieldwork. She was now the linchpin connecting scientists, emergency responders, local leaders, and residents. Communication was critical. She prepared to address a press conference, determined to deliver clear, honest updates without inciting panic. The mountain is still active, she told reporters, and while we have advanced systems to monitor its behavior, the situation remains dynamic. Our priority is your safety. Outside the center, Luca Moreno coordinated ground teams dispatched to assess damage and support evacuation efforts. His reports, relayed via radio, described precarious conditions. Unstable lava fields, ash-choked roads, and frightened families seeking refuge. Despite the chaos, Luca's calm professionalism inspired confidence among the teams. The local government, balancing economic concerns with public safety, wrestled with difficult decisions. Some officials pushed to reopen key transport routes and businesses, while others advocated for extended restrictions. Elena advocated for data-driven caution, urging patience and transparency to build trust with residents. Antonio, the venerable farmer whose resilience had become emblematic of the region, visited the command center. His weathered face bore lines etched by years of volcanic cycles and hard work. "The mountain tests our spirit," he said quietly, "but we endure because we stand together." Elena carried his words like a shield against fatigue and frustration. In the lab, Marco Russo worked alongside Elena, their professional rivalry having softened into a productive partnership. Together, they refined predictive models using Musk's AI algorithms, incorporating new data to anticipate Etna's next moves. Yet, nature's unpredictability reminded them that no model could guarantee certainty. That night, the volcano roared anew. Ash clouds blotted out the stars as lava cascaded down fiery channels, threatening villages and farmland. Emergency protocols sprang into action. Evacuations proceeded swiftly but under the cloud of fear and loss. Elena's leadership was tested to its limits, coordinating resources, managing information flow, and providing reassurance to a terrified public. In the days that followed, the focus shifted to recovery. Relief agencies mobilized food, shelter, and medical supplies. Environmental assessments documented the eruption's impact on soil, water, and air quality, critical for long-term health and agriculture. Psychological support services addressed trauma, helping families cope with displacement and uncertainty. Elena spearheaded community outreach programs, emphasizing preparedness and resilience. Her personal journey mirrored the mountain's cycles of challenge and renewal. Reconciliation with her estranged father brought moments of healing and strength, while her bond with Luca deepened through shared trials. The complex dynamic with Marco reflected the intricate balance of competition and cooperation necessary to advance their mission. Under a star-studded sky, with Etna's fiery summit glowing in the distance, Elena addressed her growing audience one last time. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? It was a call to courage, community, and hope, a recognition that amidst nature's fury and human fragility, the spirit of resilience endures. Elena knew the mountain story was far from finished, as was hers. Together, they would face whatever came next, guided by science, fortified by connection, and inspired by the enduring pulse of life itself. The early dawn light filtered softly through the thick curtains of the temporary shelter where Elena Parker had spent the night. The ash-covered landscape outside was silent, a stark contrast to the chaos that had erupted just hours before. Mount Etna's latest eruption had sent rivers of molten rock cascading down its slopes, swallowing roads and fields alike. Yet, despite the destruction, the community was rallying, their spirit unbroken. Elena rose quietly, steeling herself for another grueling day. The responsibility weighed heavily. She was not just a scientist observing a natural disaster, but a lifeline for those living in its shadow. At the command center, she reviewed the latest data. Elon Musk's AI-driven monitoring systems were performing better than anyone could have imagined, integrating seismic readings, gas emissions, and thermal imagery into predictive models that gave precious minutes warning of impending shifts. Yet, even with this technological edge, the mountain's moods were capricious. Luca Moreno joined her, his expression grave but determined. Together, they prepared for a field expedition to assess the newly formed fissures and their potential threat to the nearby town of Milo. The terrain was perilous, with recent lava flows still radiating intense heat and unstable ash deposits threatening landslides. As they navigated the rugged landscape, Elena marveled at the raw power of nature, the fiery glow of cooling lava, the sharp contrast between destruction and emerging greenery in pockets untouched by the eruption. Their scientific observations were punctuated by moments of reflection. Luca spoke of his family's deep roots in the region, his voice tinged with both pride and sorrow. Elena shared memories of her grandfather Henry, whose wisdom had guided her through previous trials. In the nearby towns, life unfolded in a delicate balance of recovery and vigilance. Antonio, the elder farmer, continued to be a pillar for the community, organizing relief efforts and sharing stories of past eruptions that had forged a collective resilience. Yet beneath the surface, fear simmered. The economic toll was mounting, farms buried under ash, tourism halted, and uncertainty clouding every decision. Political leaders grappled with the tension between reopening the region and ensuring public safety. Elena found herself at the nexus of these competing interests, advocating for transparency, data-driven decisions, and community involvement. Back at the lab, collaboration with Marco Russo had matured into a nuanced partnership. Their scientific debates sharpened their insights, driving breakthroughs in understanding Etna's complex behavior. Elon Musk's technology continued to push boundaries, integrating drone surveillance and AI analytics in unprecedented ways. One evening, a sudden seismic event jolted the research center. New fissures opened on the mountain's flank, spewing ash and gas. Emergency alerts sounded, and evacuation plans were swiftly enacted. Elena coordinated with local authorities to ensure orderly evacuations, drawing on lessons learned from previous crises. The human stories behind the headlines came into sharp focus: families torn from their homes, children clinging to memories of a once peaceful life, and communities bound together by shared adversity. In moments of quiet, Elena reflected on her own journey, from the conflicted past with her father to the bond she was forging with Luca, and the complex dance with Marco. These relationships, like the volcanic landscape, were shaped by upheaval and transformation. Under a star-strewn sky, with Mount Etna's glowing summit a distant beacon, Elena addressed her audience with heartfelt sincerity: hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? It was more than a call to action, it was an invitation to share strength, hope, and resilience. The mountain's story was ongoing, as was hers. Together, they faced the future. Guided by science, united by community, and inspired by the enduring power of human spirit and nature's majesty. The quiet that settled over Mount Etna was deceptive. Beneath the surface, the volcano's restless heart continued its slow, simmering pulse. Elena Parker stood at the edge of the observation platform, the cool night air tingling with anticipation and unease. The recent eruptions had left scars on the land and in the hearts of the people, yet the mountain had not finished its story. In the command center, screens flickered with streams of data: seismic activity, gas emissions, thermal imaging, all feeding into Elon Musk's sophisticated AI predictive models. These tools had revolutionized the team's ability to foresee eruptions, but Etna's capricious nature meant that certainty was always just out of reach. Elena's resolve was stronger than ever. She had witnessed firsthand the devastating power of the volcano and the indomitable spirit of the communities it touched. Her partnership with Luca Moreno had deepened, his knowledge of the terrain and unwavering courage complemented her scientific expertise perfectly. Together, they planned a critical expedition to investigate new signs of unrest in the volcano's northeast flank, a region that had remained relatively quiet until now. The terrain was hazardous, littered with fresh volcanic debris and unstable slopes. As they ventured closer, the air thickened with sulfurous gases, and the ground trembled subtly beneath their feet. The mountain spoke in whispers and roars alike, a constant reminder of its latent power. Back in the villages surrounding Etna, life unfolded with cautious optimism. Residents began tentative steps toward rebuilding, clearing ash from fields and repairing homes. Yet the shadow of uncertainty loomed large. Antonio, the seasoned farmer whose wisdom had become a beacon, continued to rally his community with stories of endurance and hope. Political leaders faced mounting pressure to balance economic recovery with safety protocols. Elena found herself navigating these complex dynamics, advocating tirelessly for transparent communication and data-driven decisions. Her work extended beyond science into the realm of human connection, empathy, and leadership. Collaboration with Marco Russo continued to evolve, their sometimes contentious relationship now marked by mutual respect and shared purpose. Together, they pushed the boundaries of volcanology, integrating Musk's AI technology with field data to develop predictive models that could save lives. One evening, an unexpected seismic event sent shockwaves through the region. New fissures opened, spewing ash and steam, signaling a potential new phase of eruption. Emergency protocols were activated. Evacuation orders were issued swiftly and efficiently, a testament to the team's preparedness and community cooperation. Elena coordinated communication efforts, ensuring that information was accurate and timely, helping to calm fears and prevent panic. Amidst the chaos, human stories of bravery and compassion emerged, neighbors helping neighbors, volunteers aiding evacuees, and scientists working tirelessly to understand and mitigate the crisis. Elena's own journey mirrored the mountain's rhythms, moments of tension and release, challenge and renewal. Her relationship with Luca blossomed into a partnership grounded in trust and shared purpose. Reconciliation with her father brought moments of healing and strength, while her evolving dynamic with Marco underscored the complexities of collaboration in high-stakes science. Under the vast canopy of stars, with Etna's fiery summit illuminating the night, Elena spoke once more to her audience. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? It was a call to resilience, community, and hope, a reminder that in the face of nature's might and human fragility, the enduring spirit prevails. The mountain's saga was far from over, as was Elena's. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, guided by science, fortified by connection, and inspired by the relentless pulse of life. The relentless glow of Mount Etna's crater painted the night sky with hues of molten orange and fiery red, a stark reminder that beneath the calm surface of the Sicilian landscape, chaos still brewed. Elena Parker sat in the command center, her fingers lightly tapping the keyboard as she analyzed the latest wave of seismic data. The numbers fluctuated with an erratic rhythm, like the breath of a sleeping giant that could awaken at any moment. After months of scientific rigor, community engagement, and personal growth, Elena felt both the weight and the privilege of her responsibility. The mountain had taught her harsh lessons in humility and resilience, but it had also revealed the profound interconnectedness between humanity and nature. Luca Moreno entered the room, his expression grim but resolute. "There's been a sudden uptick in harmonic tremors near the northeast fissure," he reported. "It could signal magma movement beneath the surface." Elena nodded, already running simulations on Elon Musk's AI platform. The predictive models highlighted potential eruption sites and times, but Etna's unpredictability meant no outcome was certain. She knew that every minute counted, and clear communication was essential. Coordinating with local authorities, emergency responders, and scientists worldwide, Elena crafted messages designed to inform without alarming. The towns nestled at the volcano's base, Randazzo, Milo, Linguaglassa, prepared for the possibility of evacuation once more. Families packed belongings with practiced efficiency, the fear tempered by hard-earned experience. Meanwhile, the political climate simmered with tension. Some officials pushed for reopening tourism to revive the struggling economy, while others argued for extended restrictions to ensure public safety. Elena found herself navigating these complex waters with diplomacy and firm advocacy for science-based decisions. The community's trust was fragile but vital. Antonio, the venerable farmer whose stories had sustained generations, visited Elena late one afternoon. His weathered face carried the quiet strength of someone who had seen the mountain's fury and survived. "Nature tests us, but it also teaches us," he said softly. "We must listen and learn." Elena's personal life was a reflection of the broader challenges she faced. Her relationship with Luca deepened, their bond forged in shared trials and mutual respect. The reconciliation with her father brought moments of vulnerability and healing, grounding her amidst the storm. Her interactions with Marco Russo remained professionally charged yet increasingly collaborative, a testament to the power of shared purpose. As night fell, a sudden seismic surge shook the region. Emergency sirens blared, and evacuation orders were enacted with practiced precision. The community once again faced the volatile force of Etna, their lives hanging in a delicate balance. Elena coordinated response efforts, drawing on every resource and lesson learned. The eruption was fierce but brief, spewing ash and lava that reshaped the landscape yet spared the most vulnerable settlements. In the aftermath, relief efforts mobilized swiftly. Elena led initiatives focused on environmental assessment, health monitoring, and rebuilding. Psychological support for displaced families was a priority, addressing trauma and fostering resilience. The mountain cycles mirrored Elena's own journey, from uncertainty and fear to hope and renewal. Under a star-strewn sky, with Etna's glowing summit a distant beacon, Elena addressed her audience one last time. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? It was a call to courage, community, and hope, a recognition that in the face of nature's fury and human fragility, the spirit of resilience endures. Elena knew the mountain story was far from finished, as was hers. Together, they faced the future, guided by science, united by community, and inspired by the enduring pulse of life itself. Elena Parker stood on the precipice of a new dawn, both literally and figuratively. The first light of morning stretched across the Sicilian horizon, illuminating the battered but unbroken landscape that surrounded Mount Etna. After months of relentless volcanic activity, communities devastated yet resilient, and a journey marked by science, struggle, and personal growth, Elena found herself at a crossroads. The final chapter of this saga was not merely about survival, but about transformation, of the land, the people, and herself. In the command center, the hum of machines and the glow of screens told a story of progress and vigilance. Elon Musk's advanced AI systems had become indispensable, weaving together satellite data, seismic readings, and atmospheric analysis into a tapestry of prediction and insight. These tools, coupled with the tireless efforts of the scientific team, had significantly improved early warning capabilities, saving countless lives. But the mountain remained unpredictable, a reminder of nature's awe-inspiring power and mystery. Elena's thoughts drifted to Luca Moreno, whose steadfast presence had been both anchor and inspiration. Their partnership had evolved beyond professional bounds, forged in the crucible of shared trials and quiet moments beneath starry skies. Their discussions ranged from the scientific to the deeply personal, each revealing layers of vulnerability and strength. She also reflected on her reconciliation with her father, Henry, whose wisdom and acceptance had mended wounds long left open. This healing had fortified Elena's spirit, preparing her to face the challenges ahead with renewed clarity and compassion. The communities around Etna were beginning to rebuild, the scars of eruption slowly giving way to signs of renewal. Fields once buried in ash showed new shoots of green, and families returned to their homes, carrying with them stories of loss and hope. Local leaders, guided by scientific counsel and community input, were implementing sustainable recovery plans designed to bolster resilience against future eruptions. Politically, tensions remained but had softened through open dialogue and transparency. Elena had become a trusted voice, bridging the gap between science and society, fostering understanding and cooperation. As the day unfolded, a final meeting convened at the research center. Scientists, local officials, and international experts gathered to assess the situation and chart a path forward. Marco Russo, once a rival and now a valued collaborator, presented the latest models showing a period of relative dormancy ahead, though with cautious caveats. The room was filled with a palpable sense of cautious optimism. Yet, amidst this progress, Elena knew the lessons of Etna extended far beyond volcanic science. They spoke to the resilience of the human spirit, the necessity of community, and the delicate balance between humankind and the natural world. Standing outside the center as twilight painted the sky in deep purples and golds, Elena addressed her audience one final time. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? It was a call to embrace challenge, to find strength in connection, and to carry hope as a guiding light. Mount Etna's fiery heart had tested her, but it had also shaped her. The eruption that once threatened destruction had become a catalyst for growth and understanding. As Elena looked up at the glowing summit, she felt a profound sense of peace and purpose. The story was far from over, not just for the mountain or the people, but for all who dared to face uncertainty with courage. In the end, life is full of surprises, but love, resilience, and knowledge will always lead the way. Elena Parker stood at the edge of the observation deck, the cool Sicilian breeze brushing against her face as the first hints of dawn painted the horizon with soft hues of orange and pink. The tranquility of the morning was a stark contrast to the restless energy beneath Mount Etna's surface, a volcano that had become the centerpiece of her life for the past year. What had begun as a scientific investigation into a natural disaster had evolved into a personal and professional journey marked by challenges, discoveries, and transformation. Just days ago, Elena had been alerted to unusual seismic activity on Etna's southern flank, a region that had remained relatively quiet since the last major eruption months earlier. The data was subtle but consistent: microseismic tremors, slight shifts in gas emissions, and thermal anomalies detected by Elon Musk's state-of-the-art AI monitoring systems. The signs were clear. Etna was stirring once again, hinting at the possibility of new volcanic activity. Elena's heart raced, a mixture of scientific curiosity and deep concern. She immediately convened an emergency meeting with the multidisciplinary team she had helped build: volcanologists, geologists, data analysts, emergency planners, and local government officials. Everyone understood the stakes. The communities around Etna had endured months of disruption, loss, and recovery, but the threat of another eruption loomed like a shadow over their fragile hopes. "We need to be proactive," Elena urged, her voice steady but urgent. "This isn't just about predicting lava flows or ash clouds. It's about people's lives, their homes, their futures." The team worked tirelessly over the next days, analyzing every piece of data with a keen eye. Elon Musk's AI technology had advanced significantly, incorporating drone surveillance, satellite imagery, and real-time sensor feeds to create predictive models far more precise than anything previously available. But the mountain's temperament was as unpredictable as ever, a reminder that no amount of technology could fully tame nature's power. Meanwhile, Elena's personal life was a reflection of the storm and calm that danced around Etna. Her relationship with Luca Moreno, the rugged and knowledgeable local guide, had grown stronger through shared trials and quiet moments beneath the stars. Yet, the constant pressure of the volcanic crisis and her demanding role sometimes drove a wedge between them. They found themselves navigating the delicate balance between commitment and self-care, learning to communicate openly about fears and hopes. Elena also found solace in her renewed relationship with her father, Henry. Their past conflicts, once a source of pain, had given way to understanding and support. Henry's steady presence reminded Elena of the roots and resilience that had shaped her from the beginning. As preparations for potential evacuation drills and community briefings unfolded, Elena spearheaded innovative outreach efforts. She organized workshops in villages, educating residents on safety protocols and the science behind volcanic activity. Empowering people with knowledge became a powerful antidote to fear. She knew that resilience wasn't just about enduring hardship but also about adapting and growing stronger together. One night, as the full moon bathed the landscape in silver light, the mountain announced its presence with a dramatic flare. A minor eruption erupted on the southern flank, glowing lava fountains and ash plumes lighting up the sky in a spectacular yet sobering display. Families gathered safely in designated zones, watching the fiery spectacle with awe and respect. Elena stood among them, feeling the electric mix of dread and wonder. This moment crystallized everything she had come to understand: the dual nature of Etna as both destroyer and creator, a force that challenged humanity but also inspired profound connection. In the aftermath, Elena's team worked around the clock, monitoring changes and updating risk assessments. The eruption was brief but a potent reminder that vigilance and community unity were essential. As calm returned once more, Elena addressed her growing global audience via live stream, her voice filled with warmth and conviction. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that helps you adapt when life throws the unexpected? Share your story, because together, we face whatever comes next. Her words echoed a universal truth. The power of resilience, community, and hope in the face of uncertainty. The chapter closed not with an end, but with an invitation to embrace life's challenges as catalysts for growth and connection. Elena knew that Mount Etna's story was ongoing, as was hers. Together, they would continue to navigate the delicate dance between nature's power and human spirit, writing new chapters of courage, compassion, and discovery. Elena Parker sat alone in the quiet of the research center, the soft hum of computers and monitors her only companions as she reviewed the latest data streaming in from Mount Etna. The volcano's unpredictable pulse had become a familiar rhythm in her life, a constant reminder of nature's raw power and the delicate balance humanity must maintain. Over the months, she had witnessed the devastating impact of eruptions, the resilience of the communities, and the transformative power of science and collaboration. Now, as she prepared for what could be the most critical phase yet, Elena reflected on the journey that had brought her here. The AI models pioneered by Elon Musk's team had grown more sophisticated, integrating new sensor arrays, satellite data, and machine learning algorithms to provide unprecedented insight into Etna's behavior. Yet, despite all this technology, the mountain retained its mysteries, demanding humility and respect. Elena's partnership with Luca Moreno had deepened into a profound bond built on trust, shared purpose, and vulnerability. Together, they balanced scientific rigor with empathy, understanding that the human element was as vital as any data point. The communities surrounding Etna had endured countless hardships but had emerged stronger, their spirit unbroken. Local leaders, scientists, and residents worked hand in hand, demonstrating the power of unity in the face of adversity. As seismic activity surged unexpectedly, signaling a possible major eruption, Elena coordinated with emergency services and government officials to ensure rapid response plans were in place. Evacuation routes were mapped, shelters prepared, and communication networks reinforced. The stakes had never been higher. In the midst of this crisis, Elena found herself grappling with the weight of responsibility, the fragility of life, and the profound lessons etched into every ash-covered field and rebuilt home. Her reflections extended beyond science to the very essence of resilience, love, and sacrifice. A sudden tremor shook the region, followed by a dramatic explosion lighting the night sky with molten lava and ash. Elena and Luca stood together, watching as the mountain roared back to life, their hearts heavy yet hopeful. The eruption tested every contingency, every bond forged through hardship. But through it all, the community's courage and Elena's unwavering dedication shone bright. As the crisis gradually subsided, Elena took a moment to address her global audience one final time. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story has been one of challenge and change, but above all, it's about hope. What's one lesson you've learned when facing the unexpected? Share it with us, because together, we rise. Her words carried the legacy of the mountain's enduring spirit and the human capacity to adapt, survive, and thrive. The story of Mount Etna and Elena Parker was far from over. It was a living testament to the dance between nature and humanity, a narrative of courage, connection, and the endless pursuit of understanding. Elena Parker stood at the edge of the volcanic crater, the wind whipping her hair as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a fiery glow over Mount Etna's scarred but resilient slopes. The months of relentless monitoring, emergency planning, and community rebuilding had taken their toll, yet in this moment, she felt a profound sense of calm and purpose. The mountain's rumblings had quieted for now, but the lessons etched into the landscape and into her own heart remained vivid and alive. As she looked out over the towns that had suffered and survived, Elena reflected on the incredible journey, not just of survival, but of transformation. The integration of Elon Musk's advanced AI technology had revolutionized volcanic monitoring, allowing scientists and emergency teams to anticipate eruptions with unprecedented accuracy. This technology had saved lives and allowed communities to rebuild with confidence. Yet, it was the human stories, the courage of families who refused to abandon their homes, the volunteers who worked tirelessly to aid their neighbors, the children who found hope amidst ash and rubble, that truly defined this chapter of Etna's saga. Luca Moreno joined her, their bond strengthened by shared hardships and quiet understanding. Together, they planned future initiatives aimed at education, sustainable development, and further scientific collaboration, determined to empower the region for whatever lay ahead. Elena also carried with her the wisdom of her father Henry, whose support and forgiveness had healed old wounds and fortified her resolve. In a final address to the world, broadcast live to a global audience, Elena spoke with heartfelt conviction. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story has shown us the power of resilience, science, and community. What's one thing you've learned about facing adversity? Share your story, because together, we build the future. As the sun set behind Etna, casting long shadows over the land, Elena knew this was not an ending but a new beginning, a promise to honor the past, embrace the present, and face the future with hope and courage. The mountain's voice was a constant reminder: life is fragile, unpredictable, but endlessly inspiring. And in that truth, humanity finds its greatest strength. Elena Parker sat at her desk, the glow of her laptop illuminating the dim room as night settled over Sicily. The months following Mount Etna's latest eruption had been a whirlwind of scientific breakthroughs, community recovery, and personal growth. Yet, even as the landscape healed and the residents rebuilt their lives, Elena knew the story was far from over. New data from Elon Musk's AI-enhanced monitoring systems revealed subtle but persistent changes beneath Etna's surface, signs that the volcano's restless spirit continued to simmer. Determined to stay ahead of potential threats, Elena spearheaded a groundbreaking initiative to integrate community knowledge with cutting-edge technology. She organized town hall meetings, inviting residents, farmers, and local leaders to share their observations and concerns. This collaboration fostered trust, bridging the gap between science and lived experience. Meanwhile, Elena's relationship with Luca Moreno blossomed amid shared dreams and challenges. Their bond was a testament to resilience, not just of the land but of the human heart. Together, they envisioned sustainable futures where science, culture, and nature coexisted in harmony. As Etna's smoke curled gently into the sky, Elena reflected on the profound lessons etched into every eruption and every recovery effort. She penned a heartfelt message to her global audience: hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story teaches us that while nature's power is immense, our capacity for adaptation, empathy, and unity is greater. What's one way you've grown through unexpected challenges? Share your journey with us. With this, story closes on a note of hope and ongoing discovery, reminding us that the dance between humanity and nature is ever evolving, guided by curiosity, courage, and connection. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?